Hi everyone, it's me, Arielle, and it's Wednesday Warriors, and today I'm going to be talking about how to keep power from your eating disorder, how not to give your eating disorder so much power. And it's not really going to take a terrible amount of effort on your part, but it will take a lot of remembering. I think sometimes the hardest things about recovery is making yourself remember certain things. It's so easy to forget them when you're in the heat of the moment or feeling triggered or giving into behaviors and things like that. So I'm just going to give you some quick tools, advice, things that you can put into practice, but it is going to take remembering them. The first thing is you have to remember who's in charge. Who is in charge? You are. You are in charge of your own life. You are in charge of your eating disorder. Your eating disorder pretends that it's in charge of you. It likes to make you think that it is in charge, but it's not actually the case. And if you let it be in charge, you're giving it power, and you shouldn't do that. Sometimes it may feel that the eating disorder is winning and you're losing, but even when it feels like that, it doesn't have to be the case. You have to keep remembering that you are the only one who can change your life. You're the only one who can change your day, and you are the only one who can let your eating disorder matter. So if you're letting it, don't. The second thing is remembering that you're not alone. And it's a simple statement that obviously applies in a lot of great ways to eating disorder recovery. But if you can take into your mind the fact that you are not alone in struggling with an eating disorder and you are not alone in recovery from your eating disorder, it's sort of like there's this army of good people up against this really evil thing, and that evil thing is the eating disorder. I think when we keep feeling lonely, feeling like we're alone, feeling like, maybe we're the only ones who feel like this, or there's no way out, or the eating disorder is just so much bigger than us, we're forgetting that so many other people struggle too. And I think if you keep in mind that you're not alone, it's this tiny little eating disorder that seems very big against a whole bunch of people, you among them. And just envisioning that, I think, can make you feel better, even if it doesn't change the fact that your eating disorder exists. The third thing is when you're having a really, really hard time, a really rough day, a triggering day, a depressing day, maybe something set you off, it's just a hard day, and the eating disorder is winning. Don't use that as an excuse to binge or purge or restrict or harm yourself in any kind of a way. Don't use it as an excuse. If you're doing well and you're having a setback, don't use that setback as an excuse, because what you're doing is you're giving into the eating disorder. You're letting the eating disorder have that power. You're just sort of fueling it on instead of doing the opposite. And along those lines, if you're having some really good days and you're doing really well in recovery, don't sabotage yourself. Don't feel that you're doing so well, and get afraid that you're leaving your eating disorder behind and run back to it because you're nervous about what it means to live life without the eating disorder. Remember that in going back to it, you're giving it that power that you already took away from it. This is just sort of practice in visualizing and envisioning, encouraging things. And it doesn't change the facts, but the mindset changes. And the clearer your mindset is and the more positive your mindset is, the better you'll do in recovery. It seems like very simple tactics just sitting here, but it really does work, and you have to remember to put them into practice. Listening to them and thinking they sound good and wanting to do them is wonderful, but you have to actually do them. And if you forget the first few times that you're having a rough day, it's not a big deal as long as you think, oh, let me try this for a second. And it might not even work the first 2, 3, 4 times you do it, but the more you do it, the more it really does start to sink in. You're sort of conditioning yourself to be more positive and more in control. A lot of the time, people with eating disorders either feel completely out of control or they feel completely in control of their food and their life and everything about it. And they feel like their eating disorder is giving them a huge amount of control. It's really the opposite. What you're doing is you're giving the control over to your eating disorder and letting the eating disorder run your life. So your life is very controlled, but you are not in control of it. And then for those who do feel completely out of control, sometimes it's just because they haven't realized that they can stop it. The eating disorder is real. It exists. It's not a figment of your imagination. So it's understandable that it gets this power. And it's really, really difficult to take that power back. But you can, and you really do have that power inside of you. It's almost like you're giving the power that's inside of you away piece by piece, the farther you fall into your eating disorder, and you're taking the power back piece by piece, the farther along you go in recovery. 3.5 years ago, I wrote this little post on my blog, and it was very tiny, and it was called "You Are a Beautiful Flower." And it sounded like a load of crap because it's just this very poetic sounding, cliche sounding title. But I wrote the post back then because I was looking at a flower and I was thinking about the flower in reference to self-destructive behavior and thought. And I wrote the post, and I said, think of yourself as a flower, and every time you think or say something bad about yourself or do something bad or negative to yourself, you're ripping a petal off. If you do it enough, pretty soon you'll have no petals left, and you'll be just a stem with nothing left. Or worse yet, you'll just die. And I know that I want to be a beautiful flower, not a dying stem. And I would hope that all of you out there want to be a beautiful flower too, and it's in your power to keep that from happening. When it comes right down to it, no one else anywhere is you. You're the only you. There's no one out there like you. So you can't go wrong looking the way that you do. You can't go wrong being what you are. You're you, and that's the way you were meant to be. It's okay and it's natural to feel unsure about the way that you look sometimes. But if you're feeling good about yourself, don't ever let anyone make you think differently, even your eating disorder. When you give in to a negative thought about yourself, you're relinquishing a little piece of yourself. If you continue to do that, pretty soon you'll have surrendered a lot of pieces. You'll be weaker and more unsure than ever. Next week, I'm going to be talking about other people and the things that they say and how to deal with things they might say that are hurtful or triggering or just unhelpful. And I think this is something that a lot of people can understand and relate to, whether or not they have an eating disorder. And it's certainly something that people talk to me about a lot. It's something that I get asked about a lot, whether in person or through emails or messages, anything like that. So I really hope that you'll stay tuned for that video, because I hope to talk about some ways to combat what other people say and how to be secure in yourself and feel okay even when something is said that really makes you feel unsure. A quote that I really like that seems to go along with this topic today is, "Finish each day and be done with it. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. Begin it well and serenely and with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense." And I think it's great because it sets up your attitude for the day as it should be, and it lets you know that if you screwed up, it's all right, because tomorrow's always going to be a new day. And I think that's really important when we're talking about power and taking back your own power or keeping your own power in relation to your eating disorder. And that quote's by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and there's several quotes by him that I like, but that one specifically really relates to this. I hope you'll all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.